Good afternoon to everybody and welcome to our Watch Industry Tech Trends webinar. Today we will talk about the behavior and the expectation of the younger generation and how the technology could help you to engage better and to retain this new customer. I'm Bernard Jaccard. Can you switch your slide? I'm Bernard Jaccard, Business Development Manager at Swisscom, and I'm part of the new team of luxury and watch industry, which has been created recently. And as you can see here, this is our ambition, and hopefully we will make it a lot of a new webinar in the next future. And as we plan in the fall, we'll have a physical event with you. Before we start, let me give you just a few technical information. If you are experimenting any technical issue, please send an email to the email that you can see here. And if you have any questions, please submit it to the chat and we'll answer all the questions at the end of the session where we have the question and answer topics. And if we can't answer all the questions, we will definitely send it by email. Now let me present all the speakers. We will start with Aurélie from Bloom, and she will talk about the power of social data to unveil consumer passion and expectation, followed by Dillon Bhatt. He will talk about the NFT trends, what does it mean for the collectors and the community. Then Leonie from Adresta will talk about how to maximize the engagement and sales across new channels. And last but not least, Christel from Microsoft will show you how to create an in-depth profile of your customer to personalize the relationship. Now the floor is yours, Aurélie, and I give you the talk.
Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here. So I'm going to share my screen. Tell me if it's okay for you, if you can see the slides. Right? Okay. So I'm here to talk about social data, and I wanted to be a little bit provocative by asking why social data, even if it is Bloom's speciality and Bloom's ability to understand and to decode what's inside social data. Social data, as you of course may know, it is a major source of information. We have almost 82% of the US population using social media, but when we talk about the Gen Z and the millennials, it's even more a no-brainer for them. So 80% of the population, the whole population, is going on social media to get information. So it may be daily life information, it may be news, it may be product and brand information. We'll come back to that after. And it's huge for them. It's really the first source of information, whatever they're looking for. But also, social data is a major source of insights for brands. While we were running this extensive analysis on the luxury watches conversation on social media, we found out that 260 million of spontaneous conversations happen about luxury watches. So people really want to talk about luxury watches by themselves. When we look at commerce and brands and product information, so you can see that overall social networks are being the top two touch points for getting right information about brand and products. But for the Gen Z, it's 80%. So again, and they say they are really influenced by what they can discover on social networks. So it's by large the first source of information. They also use social media channels for live shopping. I'm sure you've heard of it or even participated in a social live shopping, but it's now 43% of them going there to buy their favorite brands, favorite products. So it's a huge channel also. We know it has been developed a lot in China and in Asia, but now in European countries and in the US, it's getting very, very powerful for young people also. So once we've discovered that it's major, it's massive for the young generation, we can go and deep dive into the conversation about luxury watches. So what we've done is collecting the full conversation about luxury watches during a year, so between March 2021 and March 2022, in order to understand what really is the conversation that is animating consumers. So here you see a graph of terms and concepts and ideas that people exchange when they talk about luxury watches. So you see it's 260 million social conversation happening without the brands, without being authorized or initiated by the brands, so by themselves, spontaneous. And they talk about very multiple things, but they talk about experts, they talk about innovation, they talk about, of course, collaborations, models, brands, and so on. So you can see here, once we've discovered and modeled the data, the top priorities for consumers on this year was, of course, the know-how of the brands, the collection, but then, very interestingly, hip-hop. You can see the yellow bar, so it's not a large community, but it's really, really emotional. What allows us to understand that in a potential, what we call potential power index, so the ranking of the potentially strongest conversation in the luxury watches sector will stay around know-how. So it's an asset that luxury brands must continue investing in. But then you'll have hip-hop and innovation, which is actually not a huge conversation, but in the future will become more and more important for young generations. So it's an asset, how the brand innovates, how the product can show these strong innovations. Once we deep dive in the more product-centric and consumption-centric understanding of the conversation, you can see that the price is discussed a lot, and as online and social media transactions will grow, the price conversation will also grow and change and shift. Then the store is important, but you can see that the third topic of conversation is buy online. And you can see the red bar, which is larger than the store, and the one on the store means that there is more spontaneous conversation about buying online than on the store. So the store is still, of course, a very important touch point for the people that are talking about luxury watches on social media, but buying online is becoming more and more important for them. And they discuss, we'll see, unboxing and so on. Once we have seen this, we can zoom a little bit in the conversation on this topic, which is pre-owned. You can see here that you have 1.2 million social actions or conversations on social media for 1 year. So it's not huge compared to the 260 million conversation, but it's growing. We'll see it. And we have in this conversation almost 200K posts mentioning resale platforms, so like eBay, Chrono24, and so on. And the discussions around these platforms are, of course, around authenticity, around delivery, around unboxing, so very various topics of conversation that are going on around these resale platforms. You can see here the growing, it is slow, but it's constantly growing during the year, and it's of course COVID, post-COVID impact, but it's not, it has not faded away completely, so it's constantly growing. So the pre-owned watch market on conversation on social networks. Once we have digged into all these topics, you can see it's really rich. We can also look at who is speaking, so who is leading the conversation. So you can see here 2 examples of Gen Z people that are really engaging on TikTok on the luxury watches conversation with 2 very different points of view. The first one, Nolan Daniel White, is a collector and is discussing luxury watches, vintage watches, pre-owned watches, alongside with fashion. We'll see it in details after. And you also have Andrea Chong, who is using social networks, who is using TikTok to relate a bad experience that she had in a shop, in a store. Being young was for her equals at not being taken seriously when she wanted to buy a watch or to be on a waiting list. So you have very different experiences and qualities of conversation that are really, really insightful, because you can see here that you have a part of the conversation around vintage and pre-owned, part of the conversation around customer experience in shops, young customers' experience in shops. So if we want to deep dive, yeah, we can see an unboxing. So you can see he has a really expert and really precise way of unboxing and explaining the story of the watch and why is it designed like this. So all the conversation he's able to run and to lead are really experts. So he's gaining more and more influence in the community. And what is interesting for luxury brand, for luxury watches brand, is also that he is able to bring other communities. So, for example, the brand, the fashion community. So people addicted to fashion, not specially interested in watches, will be seeing and will be influenced by his conversation about luxury watches. So he talks about fashion, about brand history, about art history, about vintage, and the concept of aging well for brands. So quality brands, quality fashions, quality watches that are aging well. And he's also a brand owner. So I think my time is over now. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dillon, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the recent NFT trends and what this means for collectors and the community. But firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Swisscom for organizing this. And for Aurélie, you had a fantastic presentation. It's going to be very difficult for me to stand up against you. So moving on. So I'd like to start by understanding how communities are kind of built and what the importance of Instagram has been, up until now in the watch community. Pre-Instagram, there was very few places where collectors could come together and kind of share their passion. There were a few forums and blogs, But since kind of the inception of Instagram in 2010, the whole community has really found a space where they feel comfortable to communicate about, certain kind of topics and their passions. So today, Instagram is the largest point, the largest place, and surprisingly, there's been 19.3 million posts tagged with the hashtag watches today, and that's quite a lot of posts compared, if you consider that Rolex adopted Instagram in 2015 and Patek Philippe adopted Instagram in late 2018. The Watch Fam hashtag has been one that has really brought the community together. 6 million posts have been tagged with that, and Wristshot 3 million. You can see here an example of a well-known collector that has been taken a photo of his Patek Philippe. He's posted on Instagram, and the whole community is loving his posts. They give him a lot of compliments, and they kind of can engage on a much deeper level about a specific watch or about a specific interest. And this really wasn't the case before. Typically, the Swiss watch industry is very late to adopt technology, and in this case, I think a lot of brands have been more cautious, some more cautious than others, as to when is the right time to adopt social media and what is the right strategy to go about it. Nobody really thought that social media was going to be the place where you would talk about luxury goods. People would assume that it was a place initially that you would share photos of your lunch and so forth. But I think times have really changed, and brands are really understanding the power that social media and specifically Instagram has had in this space. So how does a brand harness the power of Instagram? Today, consumers are more educated now than ever before. They all have strong opinions on products and services. And as Aurélie previously stated, this can be a good thing, this can be a bad thing. In some cases, if customer service isn't up to scratch, they will go and express their bad experiences on social media. That quickly can run out of control. The good thing is that brands can learn a lot from the communities that are being built on social media and specifically through Instagram. And in some cases, they can, the communities can be your biggest critics, or in others, your biggest supporters. Just a little bit of a brief example how social media has really or how a brand has really adapted social media to their benefit was in 2017, when George Kern, who was recently appointed the CEO of Breitling, actually posted about how Breitling was going to move in the future and a little bit about the strategy. Now, he was fed with a little bit of criticism. People were commenting on his post. They didn't really like the vision that he had taken at the time. Now, this could have gone two ways, but in the case of George Kern, he was very wise in the situation, understood that we really need to harness the power of social media and the community behind it. And what he did was quite profound at the time. He actually invited Instagram commenters who were actually adding value to the discussion to join a part of a new advisory board. So he brought about 30 people on board. They include consumers, collectors, retailers, distributors, people through the supply chain, and they basically put them on a board for Breitling. And today, 30 people sit on this board. They look at product designs, they look at strategy, they look at customer experiences, and I think this is a really great way that a brand can harness the power of social media, and more specifically Instagram, especially when they're adding value. So how do brands kind of bridge offline communities? We've seen the power of social media, we've seen the power of Instagram, but what happens when you bring a group of really enthusiastic people together? Typically these groups happen to be in geographical locations. They all share the same passions, they all share the same interests, and brands are eager to kind of tap into their close circles, draw knowledge from the collectors, understand what these kind of hardcore collectors are looking for, in new products that are yet to come out, but also gain a lot of feedback and potentially make them, consumers of their products. So a few examples of communities, offline communities, that have done a really good job at kind of working with brands specifically. So Dubai Watch Club, probably one of the most well-known communities based in Dubai. They have 65,000 followers on Instagram alone and 140 core members. These are highly enthusiastic people. They have knowledge, perhaps in some cases more knowledge than the brands, and go around educating people. And they really bring people together because of their true passion. Red Bar, they are in over 60 cities globally. They have 5,000 members, and they have kind of get-togethers and meetups where people can kind of share their watches. They stand for a community regardless of the price of your watch. Just, if you're enthusiastic, please come along and come and sit down, and we'd love to chat. And I think, brands are really open to kind of understanding what these communities and consumers are looking for. Another one based in Singapore is the Singapore Watch Club. They have 42,000 Instagram followers, but they've done incredible brand partnerships and have a really strong following, and they do continuous get-togethers in Singapore, and they all share their passions. And then last but not least is the Shanghai Watch Gang. This group of really, really enthusiastic collectors have actually created their own festival, an own exhibition called the Shanghai Watch Festival, and it was self-funded by them. So here you can see a few of the collaborations that have been done. So on the top left, you have the Dubai Watch Club with Cartier. They created a watch specifically for that region and specifically for that community, and was only for sale to community members. Aurélie had done the collaboration with Red Bar, again, a stunning, beautiful watch, to commemorate the Aurélie and the Red Bar, long-term relationship that has been built over many, many years. And then bottom left, you have the Singapore Watch Club's 6th anniversary. This is a very, very cool collaboration where 18 unique Cartier watches were created, 6 different watches in 3 different metals, and were only for sale to Singapore Watch Club's members. On the right here, you can see that this is an image from the Shanghai Watch Gang. They created the Shanghai Watch Festival, and what they say is our purpose is to contribute to the growth of the Chinese watch market. Last year, each one of us sold his timepieces to organize the first festival. That's how passionate we are. Can you imagine a place where, the community sells their watches to fund a get-together of like-minded individuals, and brands can then take part in that? I think that's an incredible kind of vision for what they've had, and the brands were extremely excited to take part. So how does this all translate to NFTs? This buzzword, Web3, NFTs, we've heard it a lot, but what does it really mean? So there are various forms of NFTs. In some cases, like this owl, you really have the opportunity to kind of understand what a community is built online and how brands can kind of tap into that. So this is an example, is a project called the Private Jet Pajama Party. It's a project based in Europe that has had phenomenal artwork created by a designer that's worked with LVMH and some of the largest brands and names in the luxury goods space. They created recently launched a collaboration, a series of 3,333 NFTs. And out of those 3,333 NFTs, 5 of those NFTs, an owl is wearing a watch by the brand Debitune. Now, Debitune is a very small, independent Swiss watch brand. They produce 200 watches a year, arguably one of the most innovative brands and some of the most excellent finishing and technical aspects of a watch you'd find in the Debitune. So it was unsurprising that the two brands, the NFT project and the watch brand, had come together to really do something quite unique and cool. And what was interesting is that we would bridge the NFT in the digital space into the real world. So the owners of those 5 NFTs that are holding or the owls are wearing a Debitune watch, but actually have the opportunity to go to the Debitune manufacturer in the Jura Mountains in Switzerland and kind of do a full tour of that manufacturer. This is something that has never been seen before. This is something that the two groups came together and thought, how would we be able to translate the brand values in a new way of doing things? How are we able to tap into a very excited community, communicate with like-minded individuals in a new and fresh way? And this is, unheard of previously, and I think this is we're going to see a lot more with this. PJPP have meanwhile done other collaborations with the Loro Piana family, Casa Cipriani, who's a hospitality group, and a private members club, as well as Porsche. So they're really bringing lifestyle and luxury goods into the NFT space and are doing groundbreaking work. A quick quote from them is, "We've had the privilege of sharing beautiful stories revolving around unique timepieces, and we cannot wait for this collaboration to feed into the love of so many, share for timepieces." So you can see that we're really bridging the gap between a very physical and technical world of luxury timepieces into a new way of communicating, such as NFTs. And another way that the watch community can then communicate is through a community that's built online, and moving away from the Instagram community. If you're part of an NFT community, you could use your NFT as a gateway to then build relationships directly with a brand. So beyond the authenticity and traceability that you get by owning an NFT of a specific watch, you also get specific benefits that the brands can issue to you. So for instance, if you own an NFT, you would be invited to events, collectors dinners, and so forth. And it can give you additional information and access that other communities wouldn't have. And this is just a little bit of a screenshot of how the NFT community are able to collaborate and communicate through a new means of communication. And they're very, very interested in meeting new and like-minded people that potentially they wouldn't have met through social media. So that's me. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for my presentation. If you guys have any questions, please do feel free to reach out.
All right, I'm Leonie. I'm co-founder of Adresta. We are a Zurich-based tech company that operates in the watch industry. Has not been the best place to start a watch company, but I'm happy to be here today and show you why it is so important to focus on a mobile first, on digital solutions and the ecosystem for the consumer of tomorrow. We've seen NFTs, we've seen data. I'm gonna follow up on both Aurélie and Dillon's talks, but let me start with the digital twin. What you see on the slide is a digital representation of a watch. We help brands to create for every physical product sold a twin, including photos, text, videos, all the documents. And this twin can help the brands to gain control. So what you see on the left-hand side is a digital twin for every physical product, also a NFT. What Dillon was talking about is a purely digital NFT, so the PJPP project he was telling you about. Today, we're gonna still talk about physical products, tracking them, and how, by tracking them, we can increase engagement and sales. So stick with me when we follow the product life cycle now, where we start with you, the brand, and we digitize the product. So first we need that information digital. Then when we sell the watch upon sellout, the digital twin is also transferred on the mobile phone of your final consumer. Then when the final consumer does a service or resells the watch or gets an insurance, like we know it from our car, this is all tracked in the history. And eventually we can, along the product life cycle, collect more data, leverage it, and in the end, monetize it. And today I'm going to show you 3 concrete examples, what we've built with the 13 brands we collaborate already, and our globally live collectors app. So we're talking mobile first ecosystems, and blockchain or not, we can do it with both. First, we have to be digital. Why digital? What you see now is what becomes possible when we have the product data and the consumer data digital. It takes you 60 seconds, for example, to insure your watch. So we select the product that has been sent to me. This is my watch. We scroll down and we click on Get an Insurance. It's a worldwide all-risk insurance. We select the product. We accept terms and conditions. This is in partnership with Helvetia Insurance. We pay by credit card. This has not been possible so far. We pay by credit card. Once we're done, no single piece of paper is printed out, and the whole documentation is sent to you digitally and stored in your digital twin, where you store manuals, warranties, receipts, and for now also your insurance premium. So this is one process that becomes possible so easily at your fingertip on your mobile phone, because we are digital, because we are mobile first. So let's look at another example, service. Service for now, for the collectors, it's a hassle. You bring your watch and you don't hear anything for a lot of time. So what we built together with the brand is a service track and trace tool. We allow the consumer to pick a time frame. Post office will pick up the product and bring it to the nearest service center of his brand. And then the brand will be able to get access to our web application and record the service. So service becomes an experience. I want to know what has been done. Maybe I want images from the inner life when the case is closed. We engage with the collector, the consumer, during this service and repair step that for now has been a hassle. What you see is that we add all the steps that have been done. We justify the price, and we send the digital twin back together with the physical watch to the rightful owner. A history step has been added. You see it now in the collector's app, and he will have access to all the information, which is transparent. He knows the costs, he knows what has been done, and his digital twin is updated. So service and repair becomes an experience, and maybe you can even increase sales, of course, engagement, because you facilitate this digital first process now. Let's look at the last service. So we talked a lot about consumers. Where are they based? We will hear later by Christel more about Microsoft and data. What can we do with this data? We know who is on the application and what products they own and they store. Only by having that data, who owns what, we can offer highly targeted and data-based communication. We can upload news, we can upload events. Here it's generic news with pictures, text, description, and we can send it only to the people that care about, only to people maybe living in Zurich, owning a mechanical Swiss watch, and that are interested in water sports. And then I will get a push notification, and I feel that you engage with me. It's very personalized. I will have access to that offer, and I feel more engaged to join the event, and I become a fan. So in the end, building this ecosystem is about creating fans. So when I talk about ecosystem, luxury brands, watches, of course, are one part of the system, but we believe that the consumer has to be in the center. And for such a solution, for a digital twin to be useful, to help me, we have to think in ecosystems. It's not enough to just have my watch data on my phone. I need to be able to access services that have not been possible today. We talked about services like insurance, but we're also talking to banks where your watch, your asset becomes bankable. We're talking to the Swiss customs because when you travel with your product, sometimes you have to prove that you own it and that it's not new. And all these documents you will have at your fingertip, and you will be able to prove that you bought the product in Switzerland, for example. Then in the upper right corner, we see engagement. And there we see the largest potential that we change the way we communicate with the users. We've seen social media, but with Web3, this will be even more decentralized and more omni-channel. So I, as a user, I expect that you talk to me the way I'm used to, and this is via the phone. And last, in the lower right corner, you see life cycle. Imagine me as a user, I can inherit the product with the whole history to my children. If I want to sell the product, I can finally prove that it's not fake and everything is genuine. By solely entering the new buyer's or the new owner's email address, the whole digital twin, the record, is transferred. So this is a service that becomes more trustworthy, more transparent, and more secure. And honestly, I can't tell you about all the services that become possible because I don't know yet. Same that the iPhone will become my new camera. We didn't know. There are some things that we will be able to do better by having a digital twin. There will be some things that might not be easier, and that's why I believe we still need physical engagements. I'm happy now to give the word to Christel, who's in the studio with me today, to show you how the data we collect along a product lifecycle around the consumer, maybe with the help of an NFT, can become useful.
Thank you, Leonie. Hi, everyone. My name is Christel Newman. I'm Strategic Client Partner for Microsoft. I'm just going to wait for the slide to appear for a second. So today I'm going to tell you a bit about, very quickly, about integrating data along the customer journey, and really the final purpose is to very much personalize the relationship with your customers. So what we've got here is a little mapping. It's not the absolute truth. We all know the consumer journey in the luxury watch industry is not linear. However, it gives us a little bit of a hint. What I've mapped at the bottom right are themes we've heard about before, about the mega trends, what is happening in the world of luxury. So, and what are the next generations expecting? So hyper personalization, sustainability, diversity and inclusion, always on. You know, we've heard about online, for instance, from Aurélie, social commerce. All those are here to stay. So we're not going to go through the whole journey, bear with me. You can recognize, I'm sure, some of the points there. So the awareness, the consideration, evaluation, trying, purchasing, etc. What I'd like to do is to double click on one part of the journey, which is a little bit of a tricky one for some brands, which is the waiting list. The waiting list is usually, and I think we've heard of it actually from my colleagues a bit earlier, a very sensitive part of the journey. And the idea is let's double click on this and look at a scenario of a customer being stuck in a waiting list. So what you can see on the left-hand side is an example of a customer. He's called Aaron. He's actually a loyal customer, and he's been on the waiting list for a specific watch model for over a year. And what you can see on the right-hand side is a sales assistant, a sales associate called Stacy. And Stacy is actually notified by her clienteling book that Aaron has got quite a high churn score. So what is churn score? Is the likelihood of Aaron actually, deserting the brand. And what we can see is on average that could happen, within the next coming weeks. And that's something, again, which is powered by machine learning, but is predictive of what could happen. So we can see on the screen what might happen with Aaron is, being so frustrated, he walks away. Stacy takes control. Let's take a look at what she's going to do. So the first thing she's basically doing is leveraging the data and the insights generated by the data. So based on the insights she's received, she knows that Aaron is actually looking at different type of watch models, and all these insights are generated, and we'll go back to this, by a number of different data points. It could be transactional data, purchases he's made somewhere else. It could be first party, second party, third party data. It could be social media as well, as we've seen before, as the example here with Mr. Porter. Anyway, all those constitute a very rich data that Stacy can tap into, and she's able to identify the fact that he's been browsing on Instagram, looking at other models from competition, for instance, browsing on Mr. Porter. She identifies based on this some models Aaron is not aware of that could be of interest to him. What she also finds out through profiling is the fact that Aaron is interested in art. So here, for instance, Basel happening in a couple of weeks. So what Stacey is able to do straight away is send him a VIP invitation, to Art Basel, information about that new collection with his 3 recent models. And she proposes straight away an appointment within the next 2 weeks to try the models. So Aaron actually receives the information, he likes one of the new watch models, and he accepts the appointment. And that's a customer who was potentially on the brink of leaving the brand, who's actually kept engaged, as we heard earlier, with the brand through this type of insights and leveraging data. So just to recap very quickly what we've seen, and what you can see on the left-hand side is a visualization of the type of data Stacey could access. Technology does provide greater data to the employees of the watch companies that enables them to make better recommendations and ultimately better customer experiences. You can see some of the graph examples which give an idea of the type of interests of the customer, the profile, etc. So these employees who are empowered with better insights engage actually more deeply to have a stronger bond with the customers, who are being given a highly personalized experience, but also are kept engaged through these proactively and timely engagements thanks to data. This is a little visualization of the type of data we're talking about. It's not exclusive, and it can be enriched, and I'm going to tell you about this in a second. You can see on the top left what we call marketing data, which could be anything about mailing, for instance, contacting, loyalty. Bottom left is customer service. That's a really important part, as we heard earlier, of the journey in the watch industry. We can collect a lot of data there, and obviously this data can enrich the profile of the consumer. Top right, you can see online transactions. So again, social media, we've talked a lot, but also online orders. And then finally, in-store transactions. That could be in-store, that could be also, as said, online in terms of purchasing on your .com website. So how do we make it happen? How does a technology technology company help you collate all these data and make it work? This is really not IT, an IT slide. It's not technical. It's just to show you how it works and roughly the different phases. So the first phase is really to connect these different sources of data. And again, it could be behavioral, transactional, it could be demographics. You want to connect them through connectors and APIs from different databases. So it could be on-prem, it could be on the cloud, anywhere, and you want to centralize them. Then you want to unify and enrich this data, and that's where you've got the possibility, and that's one of the possibilities Microsoft offers, to actually enrich it with additional third-party data, browsing data, etc. So that's a super important phase. And after that, you move on to more the machine learning area, where you've got algorithms, you've got all the analytics going on about compiling the data and building that rich profile we're looking for. And then finally, you've got the phase we saw with Stacey, where all this is embedded into that rich profile and fed back as business intelligence to the teams for them to act on it. So that's a little bit of what's happening behind the curtain. I'm not going to go more into details about this. If you want to find out more, there's a little link there to a 2-minute video. There's also some links I've put in there, so feel free to tap into them. And now I'll hand over to Bernard and the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Christel, and thank you, everybody. You can stay here. I think we'll just go through the questions. As I can see, we have a lot of questions, and thanks for the audience for that. We will not be able to cover all of them, but we'll definitely pick up a few. Maybe the first one, it sounds like to be maybe for Aurélie. Is social data representative? I don't know if Aurélie is on to
Thank
speak.
you. Yes,
Okay.
yes, I am. Yeah. We cannot say that social data is representative in a traditional way, but I would say that it is exhaustive. So it's the full conversation, the full part of the population that is interested in a topic that is participating, because we not only have access to post, comments, and so on, but we have access also to all the interactions. So we can, yeah, definitely have access to all the people that are interested in the topic.
Excellent. Maybe another questions. I presume it's for Dillon. How do you see watch collecting in the future? And there is a following question. And how will brands react to these changes?
That's a really interesting question. I think moving forward, what we'll find that collecting will become much more qualitative as opposed to quantitative. I think as a collector, we don't have time to think about our next watch, but something that kind of satisfies much more of an emotional, much more of an emotional side of things. And I think brands will start to move into much more sustainable practices, whether that's the use of new materials. For instance, certain brands are using lab-grown diamonds. It's much more sustainable as opposed to mining from the earth. I think Tag Heuer was the first brand to do so. And also recycled gold. So these are just a few practices that brands are going to kind of take to use. And technology is kind of facilitating all of this, whether that, be it the blockchain or otherwise. We're definitely seeing this kind of sustainable movement. And a lot of this can now be put onto NFTs and, communities are really appreciative of this. So I think we'll definitely see much more of a qualitative and sustainable approach to collecting.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Thank you, Dillon. I will pick up maybe two more questions, and the one I presume is for you, Christel. It's about a scenario where you have many customers on waiting list and not enough sales assistant to manage each case individually.
So I think that refers to the story we saw. So you had Stacy was a sales assistant managing this situation with Aaron, and I guess what that means is, what if you don't have a Stacy for each customer to be able to follow up on the waiting list and the engagement, etc. And I think that's a great question, because the reality is most brands do not have that luxury. So what you can actually do, what is available, is you can have an automated system. It's almost like an if this then that, where basically you can build roles to say if that customer is close to that churn rate, as we saw earlier, you can have this type of engagement sent to him, or if it's part of this type of profile, this is the engagement you should send to him, this is the invitation. So you can have all this pre-automated to work at scale, which I think is a real solution, as we saw in the situation of the waiting list, for instance.
Yeah, and maybe a last questions, and how do you identify influencer? I presume it's for you already. Yeah.
Yeah, so we hear a lot about influencers marketing, which is mostly paying someone with a huge number of followers. These someone's usually working for all the brands, so with no distinction. So what we do, what we can do thanks to the data is highlighting who really counts for the consumers, who is really referent for them. So who is the expert, who are they following, who are they questioning when they have to choose a brand or a model. So these are for us the real influencers. So people who can have a very long-term and based on trust relationship with consumers.
Okay, thank you, Aurélie. And maybe a last one for you. I just pick them. I presume it's for you. What is the blockchain technology you use?
Mm-hmm. So Dillon mentioned blockchain that's currently, I think, everywhere. And we build our solution blockchain agnostic, meaning that depending on the brands, we can build on top of the technology they prefer. So we've seen many projects from groups internally coming up, like the Aura Consortium or Aurélie or other providers, like big ones like Ethereum or Bitcoin, if you want to go private or public. These are all discussions where we want to help the brands take decisions. But on the other hand, it has to be easy for me as a consumer. I expect that if I collect different brands or that if they work with different protocols, I have them all still in my one-stop shop. So at my fingertip, independent of the technology, I want to see all my assets. For now, we're talking watches. This will be jewelry, cars, and other collectibles. So we don't build our own new protocol. We will build on whatever is best. And we always advise the brands to also see what other tech companies build kind of integrations. We've seen Instagram integrating several protocols. We are here now with 2 big tech giants that build integrations for large brands. So it's important to select a protocol that is interoperable and has a good market adoption. And there we help the brands to pick, to choose. We educate a lot. We're still educating as today. We are educating. And if you have any further questions, we are here to talk tech, data, Instagram collectors.
Thank you. I think it's a nice way to close this webinar, this first webinar. I'd like to thank all of you to attend to this first webinar. A special thanks for the speakers in different places of Europe. I think that was a nice way to show that we can still rely on technologies. That's great. And you will receive shortly an email for feedback, and you can access the register session here that you can share with people. And we will send you most probably in a couple of days or weeks a survey to ask you about your interest for potential future webinar or physical events. And thanks again, and I wish you a very good afternoon.